Greetings, friends, and welcome to Enigma Night Gaming. My name is Liara, and I will be your guide in today's adventure. Today, we're playing Tyrion Cuthbert, and we are going to be trying the case in the ancient city of Leyden. So, we're not in our normal courtroom, apparently, so this should be interesting, but we're trying to defend Arya from the charges against her, which was the murder of 3 nobles. So let's go ahead and hop in and see what's going to happen. Should be interesting. Tyrion, we're definitely lost. You followed Lord Steelwind's directions to the letter, but it appears you found yourself in the ruins of an old city rather than the estate of the Archduke. I don't understand. This should be the place. The map even has that giant tree north of here. This can't be the city of Leyden that Virgil mentioned. It doesn't look like anyone's lived here in centuries. But Lord Steelwind's directions were pretty straightforward. So why are we... Wait a minute. Did he give us the wrong location on purpose? Please, what kind of dishonorable cretin do you take me for? Lord Steelwind, what are you two standing around here for? The trial will be starting shortly. He's not alone either. He's flanked by a division of the King's Guard and Arya, but it's difficult to tell if they're escorting her or keeping watch over her. You can see one of the knights channeling a spell over Arya. It must be an anti-magic field. Even now, she must still be wary about someone taking control of her mind. Wait, this is where we'll be hosting the trial? Yes, the Archduke has always been sentimental about this place. And I doubt a normal courtroom would have been enough space. I love how he put that in quotes. What? I really don't know what possessed him to trust you. It's a miracle he's even taking part in this at all. But nevertheless, let's not keep him waiting. So what's going on? Before you can ask him to elaborate, he walks past you and heads towards one of the central buildings. It's completely dilapidated. You're a little worried it might collapse on you while you're in it. You look at the prosecutor and raise an eyebrow at her, but she merely shakes her head. It's clear she's just as lost as you are. Alright, I guess we're doing this. Okay. Well, this is very old. Well, not even old-fashioned, just old. The ruins are filled with everyone who was at the Grand Cathedral that day. And they all seem to be just out of the loop as you are. The only person who seems to be unfazed by this entire situation is Lord Steelwind. He's taken his position at the opposite end of the room. It seems that he truly plans on prosecuting his daughter. Thank you all for coming here today. I appreciate your cooperation with our investigation. Why have you brought us here? This place is filthy. It's crawling with insects and vermin. My apologies, but what happens here today must be kept under wraps for now. I had to choose a location that was away from modern civilization. But nevertheless, I welcome you all to my home. Wait, you live here? I do. Your Grace, I know you wouldn't bring us here unless you were completely certain. But I want to ask you one last time. Is this truly what you wish to do? There will be no going back after this. What? I've made many mistakes in my lifetime. I gave Wivengard the means to protect themselves, but all it did was warp them into something monstrous. I grew bitter seeing what I'd created, so I isolated myself from my people. I thought my best course of action would be to stay in seclusion and leave Wivengard to fend for themselves. I see now what a fool I was. I abandoned my kin to survive in an unjust world. And now, foreign powers have ingrained themselves in my kingdom. All because of my negligence. Foreign powers? Does he still suspect that you're an agent of the theocracy? Well, no more. It's time that the people of Wizardguard and their enemies remember who watches over them. As he raises his hand, magic begins to swirl around him. Oh, what's going on? The entire room is violently shaking. Whatever he's casting, it's unlike any magic you've ever seen before. What's going on? A blinding light envelopes him, but you can faintly see his form changing. It's expanding, and from it... Wait, is that... He's a dragon? Oh boy. What? It's a dragon! As the Archduke assumes his true form, the gallery breaks out into hysteria. Some of them kneel in reverence to the ancient dragon, and some of them cower in absolute terror. You even see some of them attempt to flee before they're stopped by the Knights of the King's Guard. Enough. This may not be a court, but I will have order. You're an ancient dragon. No, you're the last ancient dragon. That is correct, Heavensborn. I am the Lord of all lords. You all stand before Rathelion, the Scaled Lord. Oh boy. Remus Virgiles and Ilias, I assume, when I walk amongst your kind. But make no mistake, even in my human form, I have always had the strength of an ancient dragon. Until now, only the lords of House Steelwind and the kings of Wizardguard have known my true identity. But I will hide no longer. My will alone will determine how this trial ends. I wonder if Rathelion is still alive, like you said. I wouldn't be surprised. Despite everything, our kingdom's constitution still includes him in our government. Wait, really? As the savior of our kingdom, he was given an honorary position on our political hierarchy. His authority technically rivals that of the king. So that's why you're acting as the arbiter. You're the only person with the authority to convict any and all of the nobles here. Make no mistake, Mr. Cuthbert. I will remain impartial regardless of what transpires here. I will not interfere in this trial, nor will I try to manipulate its outcome. I will only mediate its proceedings and pass judgment when necessary. Well, that's certainly terrifying. Now then, with introductions out of the way, shall we proceed? Of course, Your Grace. Alright. The prosecution is ready. Tyrion's like, the defense, can we adjourn? The defense is also ready. I'm sure we're all thoroughly aware of why we've gathered here. But for the sake of doing this properly, could you please list the charges, Lucio? Of course. The defendant, Arya Steelwind, is charged with several counts of manslaughter. Her victims include many knights from the King's Guard who are still unresponsive. And of course, there's Lord Von Sanctus and Coraline Sybil, the heads of House Von Sanctus and House Sybil, respectively. What is this farce? This trial has been over before it began. Lady Steelwind clearly overestimated herself. Even a child knows to be wary of mage light. No, don't you see? This is Bahamut's judgment. The divine powers that be clearly think she is unfit to rule at the king's side. Might I remind the court of my own testimony? I witnessed Beatrice Frege enter the prayer room before I lost consciousness. Isn't it suspicious that this occurred around 15 minutes before Pierce's death?
Objection!
If I recall correctly, you only caught a glimpse of her. You don't know if it was someone else disguised in an illusion. You didn't even speak to her. That's all the more reason to call her to the stand to explain herself. She has already testified that she has no memories of what transpired during the massacre. There is no need to drag this out any longer than necessary, Cuthbert. My client has a right to a fair trial. Beatrice Frega's involvement clearly implied some sort of foul play. Enough. I find Mr. Cuthbert's request to be reasonable. And I agree that Lady Frega's actions are quite suspect. Very well. Let the defense have his battle. I only hope for his sake that his blade strikes true. Why is everything a war metaphor with you? There's Beatrice with her little demon pet, Beatrice. I'm glad you're safe, Mr. Cuthbert. Not for lack of trying on your part. What? I have no memories of what I did. She's like, can you please stop that, Eris? If I hurt you, I am truly sorry. She actually looks pretty sincere. But it's not as if this is the first time she's lied to you. To be honest, I'm still a little doubtful about your memory loss. But I'm not the only one who experienced it. Arya also has no memories of what happened. How would you know that? Word travels around quickly in the dungeon. What? Regardless, if you truly have no memories of what happened, could you testify about what you do remember? Also, I saw that scramble just before it talked to her. Eris is really working the scenes here, I feel like. Perhaps there's a clue there we haven't discovered yet. Very well. Alright. Time for her testimony. I was with my sisters and my guide, Eris Mater. I was speaking with them in the garden when I suddenly felt ill and lost consciousness. When I woke up, my sisters found me. They said that I had gone missing for over an hour. I was confused, but when I later heard what happened, I realized that someone must have taken control of my body. I have no memories of what happened, and from what I understand, the same thing happened to Arya. And to make matters worse, there's nothing that indicates who may have controlled our actions. I don't think that's true. So she's also saying that someone else was controlling her. Well, her testimony does match up with Arya's statement, but there's something off about the way she's testifying. If she were trying to lie to you, she would have been a lot more vague. What is she doing? Alright. So, I was with my sisters and my guide, Eris Mater. She's been missing since the massacre happened. I really hope she's okay. Oh, make no mistake, she's definitely okay. What makes you so sure? Do you remember anything about what happened to her? No, but it's just a feeling. Enough of your speculation. Tell us what happened next, Frigga. I was speaking with them in the garden when I suddenly felt ill and lost consciousness. If they were with you, shouldn't your sisters have noticed this? According to Leif and Miriam, their pet dog was running amok in the hallways. They left the witness with Ilmater to chase him down, and when the sisters returned to the garden, both Beatrice and Ilmater were gone. Do you remember anything after that? No, I really want to remember, but I can't. She certainly looks like she's telling the truth. But history shows that she's hardly trustworthy. When I woke up, my sisters found me. They said I had gone missing for over an hour. And you have no memories of what happened? No, none at all. I can only imagine what I was forced to do while I was unconscious. Forced? What do you mean by that? I was confused, but when I later heard what had happened, I realized that someone must have taken control of my body. So you're also saying that someone else controlled your body? Yes, it's the only explanation for why you saw me in the prayer room.
Objection!
absolutely ridiculous. Arcane magic is not capable of mind control. You're spinning a fairy tale to absolve yourself. You're compelled to agree with him. So why do you feel like something's wrong? Think what you will, but please believe me when I say I have no memories of what happened, and from what I understand, the same thing happened to Arya. Your statement does match up with what happened to my client, but you clearly already knew what happened to her. You could just be using that knowledge to fabricate an alibi. I suppose I can't blame you for thinking that after what you saw. Mr. Cuthbert, I know it doesn't mean much coming from me, but I am telling the truth. That remains to be seen. And to make matters worse, there's nothing that indicates who may have controlled our actions. I feel like that's not true. Why would you even bring that up? Well, if you had evidence that someone else was controlling us, it would exonerate both Mia and Arya. Think, Mr. Cuthbert, isn't there anything that would be the best case scenario, wouldn't it? What? It's nothing. She looks extremely frustrated for some reason. Yeah, okay. So the way she's testifying is a little bit strange. She immediately concluded that someone had taken control of her. And why would she bring up what happened to Arya? Okay, so I think the thing we're going to need is here. But what do we have? Let's look at our information. During the afternoon of the murder, Celeste McCoy heard a suspicious sound. She saw Arya fighting the guards. Arya didn't respond to Celeste's questions and attacked her as well. The two fought to a standstill and Arya pushed past her. When Celeste arrived at the prayer room, she found Tyrion and Arya unconscious. Pierce was already dead. She didn't see Beatrice Frege at any point. I don't think the autopsies are going to help. Necessarily? Let's see. What else do we have? The Inquisition found a frozen blade impaling Garrick Pierce through his stomach. This implies that the murderer used shaped liquid to create this blade and murder him, which is oddly similar to how Pierce murdered Flintheart McCoy. But why would the murderer do this when they clearly had more lethal spells at their disposal? Pierce used this method during Flintheart's murder to leave as little evidence as possible. However, it's clear the murderer wanted to frame Arya and leave as much evidence as possible. Okay? This is the murderer's route. Judging from the time of death, the murderer went from the common room to the balcony and then to the prayer room. In that order, but it wasn't the most direct route. There has to be an explanation. The Inquisition discovered something was wrong when Alaric de Wivengard reported that a fire had broken out in the common room. He also told them that Arya Steelwind cast a spell on him earlier that day to that severely debilitated his senses. Alright, several knights from the Kingsguard were found unconscious after the bodies were found. Due to lack of magical traces, they are clearly not being affected by any kind of arcane spell. You saw Beatrice Frege as you were losing consciousness. You only saw her for a brief moment, so it could have been an illusion. Regardless, that means she somehow entered the prayer room at 2:30 p.m. A knight assigned to guard Beatrice and kill her if Marnoth attempted to escape. He was later found comatose in front of the prayer room. Eris Mater, who was also with Beatrice, has disappeared. Maybe. Alright, so Beatrice's spell compendium. She has Familiar Bond, Sleep, Mend Wounds, Send Message, Animate Corpse, Necrotic Blight, Invisibility, Feign Death, Illusory Disguise. Okay. See, he has Shape Liquid. And I don't think anyone else does. So either somebody copied their spells, or let's see, what else we got? From 1:15 to 1:40, Aster de Wivengard and Arya Steelwind spoke with High Speaker Theon Arceus about their upcoming wedding. At 1:40, Steelwind abruptly left the meeting and didn't answer Aster. Okay. At 2 p.m., Aster de Wivengard went to pay his respects at his father's coffin. Unbeknownst to him, however, there was a glyph of contingency set to trap him inside a force cage. This triggered this trap triggered, and Aster was trapped in that magical cage for its duration. This caused the King's Guard to consolidate their forces at Aster's location. As a result, there were fewer guards for the slaughter. Okay. Theon Arceus was on his way to the prayer room to recite his prayers. On his way there, he spotted Arya Steelwind throwing something off the west balcony. He wasn't able to see what she threw, but after Coraline Sybil's body was found in the Lake Gallicrond, he assumed the object must have been Sybil's body. However, he could have sworn that he saw something darker, but he's still not sure. After witnessing this, he attempted to enter the prayer room, but was turned away by the knights guarding it. Alright, supposedly Theon Arceus suffers from chronic insomnia. Okay, so his quarters are soundproof. You found bits of Earth-like debris near the westward balcony. They have traces of transmutation magic on them. The demon Marnoth called Archduke Remus Vigile to meet him at 1:50 p.m. apparently had very important information that Vigile couldn't ignore. Vigile spoke with Marnoth until 3:10. Members of the King's Guard guarding the demon can verify this. Alaric de Wyvernguard saw Arya Steelwind exiting the common room. The spell blurred his vision and put him in a daze. His ears were ringing. He was unable to speak or walk properly. No one saw him while he was in this state. Okay. Arya Steelwind has no memories of what happened after she left her meeting with Theon Arceus and Aster de Wyvernguard. After she left the meeting, she began heading to the nave to meet with her father. However, she suddenly felt nauseous and went to the westward balcony. She lost consciousness soon after. She later regained consciousness in the prayer room when she heard Celeste McCoy crying over your unconscious body. She did not cast any magic before she fell unconscious. It's some sort of strange symbol. Arya Steelwind calls it the purple mark. She thinks it has some relation to her mind control conspiracy. Supposedly, this mark has been found at the scenes of several gruesome murders throughout Wyvernguard. Arya felt she was getting closer to the truth when she regained consciousness after the massacre. She found a paper with the symbol in her pocket. Maybe. Okay, now she does have shaped liquid, so I guess that's... Okay. There's nothing that indicates who may have controlled our actions. Well, what about this? Will this work? Objection! Okay, good. Why would she say something like that? You found the contradiction, but it was almost like she gave it to you. Beatrice, you said there's no indication of who orchestrated this, but there is one piece of evidence that does just that, albeit loosely. And what would that be? This symbol. You pull out the parchment with the purple mark on it and show it to her. Marnoth, what are you doing? What's wrong? He's using his powers to suppress our connection. Magic? I can't actually see what you're trying to show me. Marnoth, can you stop being petty and just let her see it? I don't take orders from you, Heavensborn. I wonder, Mr. Cuthbert, what is on that parchment? You see, Beatrice, Arya has been investigating a string of murders throughout Wyvernguard. These murders appear to be unrelated, despite how gruesome they are. But they all share one thing in common. This symbol was found at each and every crime scene. Objection! Don't tell me my daughter has roped you into her little conspiracy theory. Your mind control defense would be laughable if it weren't downright insulting. Lord Steelwind, during the gap in Arya's memory, someone placed this mark in her pocket. It was clearly some sort of taunt from whoever orchestrated this. Nonsense, she clearly drew that symbol herself during her psychotic episode. I've had to listen to her go on and on about her insane theory. She was obsessed with it. Mr. Cuthbert, aren't you curious about what just happened? What are you talking about? Think about it. Why did... My apologies. I don't know why I said that. Ugh. Is everything okay, Beatrice? Yes, I'm perfectly fine. Anyways, it looks like you'll have to figure out the rest on your own. Figure out the rest on my own? What do you mean by that? There's nothing to figure out. Your Grace. These two are making a mockery of us by spouting these insane theories. The defense clearly has no case. End this at once. He's just like, considering what we know, I'd like to indulge this theory. What? The judge is finally giving you a chance for once. That's a first. You shouldn't waste this opportunity. You've actually been noticing it for quite a while. Beatrice has been acting strangely since the trial began. It's suspicious, but not in the way that seems to implicate her. It's almost like she's intentionally trying to make you realize something. Why don't you pull on this thread a little more? She just asked you if you were curious about what just happened. You're not sure why she stopped herself when you asked for elaboration. What event was Beatrice referring to? But whatever she's trying to draw your attention to must be significant. Is it how Marnoth was blocking her from seeing the symbol? Marnoth hid the purple mark from Beatrice. Marnoth, he didn't allow Beatrice to see the purple mark. He'd only do that if Beatrice would recognize it normally. Why would Marnoth interfere? Marnoth is her familiar and he used to follow her orders. So it would be because his master told him not to, right? But clearly, things have clearly changed now that she belongs to the Empress of Discord. So why would a demon like Marnoth interfere like this? Marnoth is... Let's see, what do we have? The purple mark is related to a demon? Maybe? The purple mark must be related to a demon somehow. That's the only explanation as to why he would prevent her from seeing the mark. But Arya has been investigating murders throughout Wyverngard. Does this mean that her investigation also has something to do with the demon? Arya suspected that each of the murders was acting against their will, and now both Arya and Beatrice are also claiming they were controlled. How could something demonic control Beatrice? You can't explain what happened to Arya and these other individuals, but you do know why Beatrice might have full control of her actions. So, Beatrice lost let's see, due to a blood contract? Beatrice lost control of their actions, control of their actions due to a blood contract? You recall what was written on Beatrice's contract during her trial. It said what would happen if she failed to claim House Freyga. Her soul, her mind, and her life would all be claimed by the Empress of Discord. What does this tell us about Arya? If this Empress of Discord owns Beatrice's mind, that would that mean they could also control Beatrice against her will? But if that were true, Beatrice created what? Let's see. Arya, let's see. Arya lost control of their mind from during which promised vengeance due to a blood contract during the investigation from the Inquisition. Beatrice, what does this tell us about Arya? What does it tell us about Arya? Beatrice created, Beatrice killed. What does it tell us about Arya? Arya lost control of their mind due to a blood contract? No, that doesn't make sense. But it reveals a grim conclusion for Arya. Let's see. Wait, oh, did I have it as hid? Lost. I meant lost. Control of their mind due to a blood contract? Right? And that's not what I just said, is it? Okay, yeah. No, that can't be right, can it? That's what I meant to say anyways. Did Arya seriously sign a blood contract with a demon? But why would she ever do that? But it's the conclusion that makes the most sense. You can't think of any other way someone could control her against her will. And there is one way to find out for certain: the divine edict, the same ability used against Beatrice during her trial. It was instinctual at the time, but you have some understanding of how it works. It creates a copy of a blood contract between a contract holder and the demon who created it. Before it to work, you need to know the name of the contract holder. In addition to that, you need the name of the demon who created the contract. Which demon did Arya make a blood contract with? Right now, you're only relying on guesswork. But going off what you know, the demon who made the contract must be, would it be Eris? Empress of Discord? That would be my guess. Why would she make a contract with Marna? What could he do for her? Like, I don't understand. But the Empress of Discord, maybe? The so-called Empress of Discord. She was mentioned in Beatrice's blood contract, but you still have no idea who or what she is. However, she was mentioned in a blood contract created by Marna. She must be his superior in some way. That might explain why Marna doesn't want Beatrice to identify the purple mark. You're not sure if a pseudonym is enough, but it's the closest you can get with what you know so far. You've been awfully quiet for a while, Mr. Cuthbert. What are you thinking about? He's probably imagining new ways to futilely stall for time. I think I finally figured out why the witness and the defendant can't remember anything. And it would also explain why they didn't have control of their actions.
Objection!
Again with this. Well, if you're so convinced of my daughter's conspiracy, why don't you prove it? I plan to? I knew it. Even you don't believe in the nonsense you're spouting. Lord Stillman, I want to be wrong about this. If I'm right, the implications don't bode well for anyone involved. So instead of telling you, I think it would be better to show you. Empress of Discord, wherever you may hide. Dang it. I knew you could do it. By the eye of Horus, I issue you a divine edict. Release thy guards and manifest your blood contract with Arya Steelwind. It's gonna be Eris, isn't it? Alright, let's see. The blood contract seems strange. Unlike Beatrice's contract, it's only one page. Even stranger, there's a large empty space at the top half of the page. There are only a few sentences at the bottom. For the intentions of this contract, the person who hands the contract to Arya Steelwind will be referred to as the patron. By signing this contract, Arya Steelwind surrenders her mind, body, and soul to the patron. This contract will bind Arya Steelwind to the patron so long as they both live. It's signed with Arya's signature. Huh. No. This can't be true. This is... Oh, man. Oh, man. Enough. Stop prattling amongst yourselves.
Objection!
No, this is a sham. This wretch was clearly created a convincing fabrication. It's genuine, Lucio. It's impossible to falsify something like this. You can't deny the truth anymore, Lord Steelwind. There is a way to control someone else's actions. Arya Steelwind wasn't affected by Mage Blight. She was controlled against her will. Oh no, he's sad, angry, and scared. Is he thinking about what he did to his wife? With this evidence, there is no doubt that Arya did sign a blood contract. But it still doesn't make sense. I agree. Even if Arya was the type of person to sign a contract with a demon, there isn't a single part of this contract that benefits her. Why would Arya sign this contract? I think the only way she would sign it is to save somebody she cared about, right? Let's see. She signed the contract because she placed her trust in, because it looks like a normal document. There you go. I think she was tricked. There's a large empty space above the terms of your daughter's contract. When I issue a divine edict, it creates a copy of the blood contract I called for. I think when she was given this contract, it probably looked like something entirely different. Something else was written in this empty space to make it look like a normal legal document. Maybe a wedding document? Which means my client was not in control of her actions that day. Oh man, she was like super tricked. Enough of this, all of you! Do you see now, Lord Steelwind? Arya was not responsible for what happened. That remains to be proven. What are you talking about? She has a blood contract that relinquishes control of her free will. Not having control and not being responsible are two very different things, Cuthbert. What? I'll admit, the defendant may not have had control of her actions when she murdered the victim. However, she did have full control of herself when she signed this contract. Are you serious? No one in their right mind would willingly sign a contract like this. And what of Beatrice Frege? Was she in her right mind when she made a contract with the demon Maranoth? If we can't hold the defendant responsible, surely we should also acquit Lady Frege for the murder of her father. That's hardly the same thing. I, for one, fail to see the difference. A fool made a deal with a demon, and as a result, several esteemed members of the nobility were killed. She's your daughter, Lucio. And how does that change anything? Dang it, he seriously doesn't care if he convicts Arya. Honestly, this only places more responsibility on her for what happened. I could have accepted it if she had been reckless and accidentally induced mage flight. But to sign a contract with a demon? That only further espouses the need to put her down. She was clearly tricked, Lucio. Is that so? As a fellow attorney, would you really sign a contract without carefully inspecting it? It's true, unless it was, maybe it had an illusion on it. Whether it was through foolishness, negligence, or both, the defendant willingly signed a blood contract. She compromised herself, and as a result, 3 nobles died. The responsibility falls squarely on her. Wait, even if she willingly signed the contract, that's not entirely true, is it? Who else was responsible for Arya's actions? The patron, right? Lucio, there's clearly someone else to blame for Arya's actions that day. Oh, and who would that be? I'd like to reread my client's blood contract to the court. By signing this contract, Arya Steelwind surrenders her mind, body, and soul to the patron. That can only mean one thing. Whoever this patron is, they took control of my client and used her to murder the victim. That's right. They could still be out there. None of us are safe until this patron is apprehended. Surely we can't end this trial while every member of the Wyvern nobility is in danger. Well played. I'm compelled to agree with Mr. Cuthbert. Trickery or not, it's clear someone wished ill intent on the nobles. And until we know who this patron is, you can't pass judgment on my client. Not until we know the circumstances that she signed the blood contract under. And what would you have us do, Cuthbert? The contract has no stipulations about proximity or how this mind control works. For all we know, this patron could have murdered the victims all while sitting in their very home. There was a clear intent behind this attack. Even if the patron didn't directly participate in the murders, they definitely had a motive. And if Arya was being controlled, we can analyze her behavior to determine who was controlling her. By the Scaled Lord, yep. I see. That does sound as good a plan as any. I mean, you can say it to him. He's right here. To the very least, we can't allow this patron to escape justice. Despite the questions raised, we've clearly made some headway. I believe we should take a brief recess to process these revelations. Very well. He doesn't like that. Man. Oh, man. It's getting crazy up in here, guys. Alright, let's see what's going to happen next. You step outside the Scaled Lord's lair to get some fresh air. Rathalion looks so cool, yeah. These new revelations are a lot to take in. Celeste looks especially down. From what you've observed, she and Arya have been speaking to each other a lot. They must have become friends over the many times they've met, and the many times that Celeste has pretended to be related to Arya. You can't imagine how powerless she feels right now. Arya, I'm so sorry. Don't be. Her voice begins to break. And Lucio has the biggest ego ever. She's always been stoic, but it's clear even she has her breaking points. I can't imagine what you're feeling right now, but there's still hope. We always gotta keep hope. If we can find out who did this to you, we can still save you. Alright, so she's worried maybe that won't happen? Do you remember if you've signed anything recently? No, I don't. Darn it, the patron must have wiped your memories to cover their tracks. But I still don't understand. Even if I don't remember signing that contract, I don't think I would be that careless. Right? As much as I hate to admit it, Lucio was right. You're an attorney like me, and we always carefully look over contracts before we sign them. Which raises the question of how the patron got your signature. I don't know. Darn it, we don't even know what circumstances you were under when the contract was signed. Or when you signed that contract. For all we know, the patron could have used any number of tactics to coerce you into doing this. That's also possible. Arya, as you're deliberating amongst yourselves, Lord Steelwind approaches you. What are you doing here? Father. He's sad and scared. I can't believe him. How does he have nothing to say? Trying to prosecute his own daughter, Tis, yep. His actions say otherwise, but you could have sworn you saw something through the eye. Yeah, I think he feels bad for her, but because of the position he's in, he has to act impartial. Or he has to maybe act harsher to her to prove that he's impartial, perhaps? It's almost as if he was saddened and worried. Well, no matter how he feels internally, he's made it clear that he's your enemy. Whatever his motivations are, you'll overcome him, just like everyone else. We should also head back, Celeste. Right. No matter what it takes, you're going to see this through. Alright. Court is now resumed. Shall we pick up where we carried off? How would you like to proceed? I think we should review what we do know about the murders. We do have a plethora of witnesses to work with. That's correct. So let's start from the beginning. It all began at noon yesterday morning. I was at my house in Ratholm with Arya and my bodyguard Celeste. I was speaking with them when a courier suddenly delivered a letter to my home. It was from Garrick Pierce. He wanted to meet with me and Celeste at the Grand Cathedral of the Scaled Lord at 2 p.m. To make sure we were on time, we arrived at the Grand Cathedral at 1 p.m. At the time, we didn't know that the cathedral was closed to the public, but the knights guarding the cathedral allowed us through anyways. Apparently, they were expecting us. That should not have been possible. Due to the solemnity of the situation, we were very particular about who was permitted to enter the cathedral. It's possible someone pulled some strings to let us through. or you two entered the cathedral illegally. Well, I'm sure that the knight from the King's Guard can vouch for us. I know about every order given to the King's Guard, and none of them were told to let you two through. It's possible the night we met fell comatose like the others, and as long as they're unresponsive, we'll never know. Perhaps we should continue. Alright. Anyways, we arrived at the church and spent the next hour sightseeing before we went to meet with Pierce. In that time, we met with Remus, Lucio, Arya, Aster, and Alaric. And around that time, Arya and Aster left together to meet with the High Speaker in his quarters. While exploring the cathedral, we spoke with Von Sanctus and Sybil. Then we spoke with the three Frege sisters and Eris Ilmater. Eris Ilmater? She's a friend of Beatrice Frege. The King's Guard wouldn't let her bring her familiar into the cathedral, so she brought Eris to guide her instead. Anyways, we left the garden at around 1:45 p.m. to meet with Pierce in the prayer room. And at around the same time, Arya left her meeting with the High Speaker and felt nauseous. The last thing she remembers is looking at Lake Galacrond. A likely story. Regardless, at 2 p.m., Aster went to pay his respects to his father's body. Unbeknownst to him, a mage had placed a glyph of contingency in front of his father's coffin. It was set to trap him within a force cage. What a despicable act! Considering what followed, the attack of His Majesty must have been a diversion. Right. It was also at this time that both Beatrice and Eris went missing. Considering the timing of it all, someone must have taken control of Beatrice's body after the trap on Aster was sprung. And are you saying this patron controlled her as well? No, I don't think so. According to her contract, her mind belongs to the Empress of Discord, not the patron. Furthermore, Arya's blood contract was created by the Empress. It's clear that the patron and the Empress were in league with each other. Wonderful. Another demon we have to worry about. So does that mean that Eris is the patron? Or is she the Empress of Discord? I thought she was the Empress of Discord, but maybe, I don't know. Who would be, if she's the Empress, who would the patron be? I'm not sure who else it could be. I mean, there's a long list of suspects, but who would be able to convince her to sign a paper? So the first thing that comes to my mind is Aster, because Arya goes absolutely cuckoo bananas anytime Aster talks to her. So if he was somehow the patron, but it doesn't really make, I don't know, unless he was getting himself put into the force box to defray suspicion, but I don't know what his motive would be, so I don't know. Anyways, the patron and the Empress had all the pieces they needed. That's when they began the massacre. The patron took control of Arya's body, and they used her to murder Von Sanctus at 2:05 p.m. Presumably, Arya started a fire in the common room around this time. And since Von Sanctus's body was found in there, this must have been after she murdered him. Shortly after, Prince Alaric spotted smoke from the fire and asked Arya what was going on. Arya responded by using an unknown transmutation spell to incapacitate him. To think they would use her to attack the prince as well. Now, the spell, I think, was some kind of polymorph spell to turn him into an animal, I think. Luckily, the effects of that spell were only temporary, and Alaric came out unharmed. After this, the patron used Arya to murder Sybil at 2:15 p.m. She brought Sybil's body to the westward balcony, where she dumped it into Lake Galacrond. High Speaker Arceus witnessed this, but he wasn't aware of what she'd thrown off the balcony until much later. The High Speaker thought this encounter was strange, but he continued with his business. He headed to the prayer room, but was turned away by the knight standing guard there. Meanwhile, Celeste and I were talking to Lord Pierce. When we showed up for the meeting earlier, he was clearly expecting someone else to show up. We tried to get to the bottom of what was happening, but he refused to answer our questions. And at about 2:20 p.m., we heard a commotion outside. Celeste went to investigate, and that's when Celeste fought Arya. The patron's target was Garrick Pierce, but Celeste was too powerful to neutralize. They fought each other for about 15 minutes before Arya was finally able to push past her. During their fight, the Empress sent Beatrice to the prayer room. She probably made Beatrice invisible to move undetected. She then used her to cast a sleep spell on Pierce and me to knock us out. I remember checking the time close to when this happened. This must have happened at 2:30 p.m. If your testimony is correct, Beatrice Frege was actively used in this plan. Yes, and considering how quickly the massacre unfolded, the Empress must have coordinated with the patron. They probably planned how they would use Beatrice and Arya to carry out the murders. Anyways, after Beatrice knocked us out, Arya finally pushed past Celeste and entered the prayer room. And before Celeste could chase after her, she had already murdered Pierce. Arya and I were already unconscious by the time Celeste entered the room. The patron had already achieved their goal of murdering 3 nobles. So she probably fell unconscious after they released their control over her. Arya and I regained consciousness shortly after. That's when the Inquisition arrested her for the murders. Lord Pierce was one of the victims. Your meeting clearly had more significance than I'd realized. So tell us, Cuthbert, what was your discussion about? It's fine, you can tell them. Alright, as long as it's okay with you. For the past few months, Celeste and I have been investigating who her birth parents are. I recall receiving many complaints about her during the Lord's Ball. Supposedly, Garrick Pierce had the information we were seeking. That letter he sent us said that he wanted to trade this information for his freedom. I assumed this meant that he wanted me to be his attorney. Do you honestly expect us to believe that? Why would he ask for help from the attorney who indicted him in the first place? We thought the same thing. And when we arrived for the meeting, it was clear I wasn't the intended recipient. This means that Pierce sent the letter to someone else. You better not be lying to us, Cuthbert. Frankly, I don't much care if you believe me. Regardless, if we examine every action Arya took, we can build a psychological profile of the patron. I will give you that. To begin, the defense would like to call the Inquisition commander to the stand. His testimony might shed some light on how Von Sanctus and Sybil died. Despite all these witness accounts, we still only know how Pierce was murdered. Yes, he was impaled using a blade magically frozen from his own blood. In a grim sort of way, it's almost poetic that he died in the same way Flintheart did. But you doubt that will give Celeste any kind of closure. Alright, anyways, we need to find out exactly how Arya murdered Von Sanctus and Sybil. The massacre was swift and efficient. It must have required a lot of forethought and coordination. If we figured out who might have had this knowledge, we might be able to find out who did this. I see, that sounds as good a plan as any. Kingsguard, escort Commander Orem White to the witness stand. Alright. He's probably tired of being on the witness stand. Witness, please state your name and occupation. Right, Commander? I'm sorry, I just can't do this. How am I supposed to act like this is normal? A giant lizard is standing right behind me. Calling me a lizard is highly offensive, Commander. Sorry, you scaled lordship, sir. Commander, just try your best to testify about what happened. Yeah. Oh boy. It all started when we received a report from the Kingsguard. The prosecutor attacked Prince Alaric and a fire had broken out in the common room. We weren't sure what the deal with Steelwind was, so we went to the common room to put out the fire. But when we got there, we noticed a bunch of unconscious knights in front of the prayer room. We went to the prayer room. That's when we found Steelwind and Cuthbert unconscious next to the Pierce's dead body. We later found the bodies of Von Sanctus and Sybil, too. That's when we realized that she offed all three of them. So you still have no idea how Steelwind was used to murder Von Sanctus or Sybil? Not a clue. It's especially worse for Von Sanctus. The fire burned a lot of physical evidence off his body. What about Sybil? Was there any physical evidence on her body? No idea about that either. She didn't have any wounds either. All we know is that she died of suffocation. There's definitely more information you can glean from their investigation. Okay. It all started when we received a report from the King's Guard. The prosecutor attacked Prince Alaric, and a fire had broken out in the common room. Okay. And this is mainly based on Prince Alaric's testimony. Am I correct? Yeah. We still have no idea which transmutation spell she hit him with. Judging from the time of the report, this must have been well after all three of the murders occurred. Yeah, it was unfortunate how that played out. If Steelwind really was controlled, whoever controlled her knew how to get the job done quickly. That leaves the question of how they did this so efficiently. Okay, we weren't sure what the deal with Steelwind was, so we went to the common room to put out the fire. Was that wise? Regardless of who it was, someone assaulted a Prince of Whippengard. We were already dealing with the king who was trapped in that force cage. Honestly, a lot happened in that hour, and most of our attention was focused on keeping the royal family safe. We can already conclude that the attack on the king was a distraction. Whoever orchestrated this must have known we'd focus our attention on keeping the royal family safe. You suppose that makes sense. And the casualties still include many knights from the King's Guard. They probably had to spread their forces thin to protect everyone else and handle the fire in the common room. What did you do when you arrived at the common room, Commander? When we got there, we noticed a bunch of unconscious knights in front of the prayer room. Okay. Did you see Arya or Celeste? No, we only saw the aftermath of their fight. There were marks and craters everywhere in that hallway. Pierce's time of death was 2:45 p.m., and the knights didn't arrive at the common room until 3:10 p.m. They didn't arrive at the prayer room until well after the battle had taken place. Wait, wouldn't that mean you were in that room with Pierce's body for 25 minutes? Why didn't you look for help? You weren't waking up for some reason, so I kept channeling my healing magic into you. Looking back, I probably should have just looked for help. But even if Arya was unconscious, I didn't want to leave you alone in that room with her. Right, sorry. Alright. Recalling that moment is clearly taking a toll on her mind. You should be more careful. We went to the prayer room. That's when we found Steelwind and Cuthbert unconscious next to Pierce's dead body. Okay. Judging from the timing, this would have been several minutes after he'd already died. Yeah, and we had no idea what was going on. Pierce was already dead, and you and Steelwind were unresponsive. Okay. I can see why I'd be unresponsive. I was hit with a spell specifically designed to make people sleep. But why would Arya be unresponsive too? We have no idea. We never even heard of demonic possession until today. For all we know, it could have all been a side effect of being controlled for over an hour. You suppose that makes sense, but could that common thread truly be a mere coincidence? We later found the bodies of Von Sanctus and Sybil too. That's when we realized that she offed all 3 of them. That last statement was a little vague. Perhaps you should ask him to elaborate more on one of the murders. But whose murder should he elaborate on? I want to find out about Lloyd von Sanctus, because I have some ideas about his. Could you elaborate more on von Sanctus's murder? Was there any evidence that implied how he died? Like I said, it's trickier with von Sanctus because the fire partially burned his body, and our divination magic could only tell that he died of suffocation. I see, so there's no other physical evidence. Well, there is one thing. From his burn marks, we do know he was hit with a firebolt before he died. We're guessing she wanted to weaken him before she dealt the final blow. So he took a direct attack from her before he died. Anyways, please add this to your testimony, Commander White. Sure, whatever you say, kid. Alright. From the burns on his body, she must have hit him with a firebolt to keep him from getting away. He didn't have anything else to defend himself with. Is that true? Let's see. What was in his, let's see, a fire-based evocation spell. Does she have anything? Mend wounds, firebolt. She does have firebolt. Okay. Okay, so the caster launches a fiery projectile that's hot enough to inflict third-degree burns. The projectile can travel 120 feet without collision before its magic dissipates. Once it collides with something, it will set the object ablaze if it's flammable. Okay. But did he have nothing to defend himself with? He had Force Cage, right? Where is Force Cage? For the duration, the caster creates a magical 10 by 10 by 10 foot cube around the target within 30 feet of them. The walls of this cube are impenetrable and can't be destroyed by anything, not even by spells that can normally dispel magic effects. Furthermore, any attempts to magically teleport into or out of the cube are foul. If there's more than one creature in the target space, they will be pushed away from the center of the cube. But, okay, what if we do this?
Objection!
He did have something to defend himself with. That's strange. What is it now? Commander White, you said Steelwind attacked von Sanctus with a firebolt before she suffocated him. Yeah, she probably wanted to injure him so he'd be easier to subdue. But that's what I find strange. Von Sanctus knew he was under attack. So wouldn't he cast Force Cage to repel her? I guess that's true. Von Sanctus was hardly a warrior, Cuthbert. Force Cage is an extremely useful spell, but it has to be aimed. He was hit with a firebolt, and he must have been in immense pain. I doubt he'd be able to think clearly under those circumstances. I'd normally agree with you, but the crime scene tells another story. What do you mean, Mr. Cuthbert? Alright, what implies that Von Sanctus cast Force Cage? Let's see. Burn mark were found, traces of abjuration magic were found on and around the body. Isn't that what Force Cage is? Yeah. Isn't that the autopsy, right? No, Steelwind is somewhat believable. But you remember there's something you found at the crime scene, and it tells you whether Von Sanctus cast Force Cage or not. Okay, it was the fact that the floor was, not burned, right? But where was that? Let's see. I don't remember. These are all compendiums. Nope, that was this. Spell blurred his vision. Which one was it? I swear I thought it was this. Traces of abjuration. There was something else though. Let's see. When the Inquisition arrived at the scene, they spotted the unconscious guards. was it? Letter from Garrett Pierce? No. There was a thing I thought we had that talked about how the floor was not, how there was an area on the floor that wasn't burned. What do we have? These are all just spells. There's gotta be one of these somewhere. Okay, let's just look through all these real quickly. This is the letter. This is the map. That's not helpful. This is just talking about that. There's nothing useful here. The Inquisition found a frozen blade impaling Garrett Pierce through his stomach. There were traces of transmutation on his blood. Alright, that's not helpful. Nothing there. Inquisition found something wrong. They also told them Arya Steelwind cast a spell on him. Okay. Features Freyga could have been an illusion. That's not it. Alright, oh, that's what it was. I didn't see this one. Alright. When we investigated the crime scene, we found traces of abjuration magic that formed a perfect square around the body. I'm sure if we measured the dimensions of that square, it would be 10 foot by 10 foot, which is the same length and width as the cube created by Force Cage. Like you said, he was in no shape to aim it. So he cast Force Cage on himself to make a makeshift barrier.
Objection!
That's what I think he did. Nonsense. If Von Sanctus had cast Force Cage on himself, it should have protected him from further harm. The defendant wouldn't have been able to suffocate him after that. I don't think she did. I think the fire did the job for him. Perhaps there's some way to bypass Force Cage. And once again, your ignorance of the arcane arts is made apparent. Force Cage is one of the most powerful abjuration spells in existence. It can't be dispelled, and no one can teleport into or out of it. Right, Aster was also trapped in a Force Cage, and he had to wait for the hour duration to elapse. So how did Steelwind suffocate him? Wait, if Force Cage is perfectly closed space, is it possible that he ran out of air? That's exactly what happened. The fire, she hit him with a fireball, it ignited his clothing, he cast Force Cage, and the fire burned up all the air in the cage. It's obvious. That would be a glaring weakness. House Von Sanctus obviously designed that spell to allow oxygen through the barrier. And before you ask, poisonous gases can't be pushed through the barrier either. Only oxygen can travel through it. Right, and even if they had used poisonous gas, the autopsy report wouldn't have said he had suffocated. How did Arya suffocate Von Sanctus? Eat. Because the carbon dioxide couldn't get out, right? Only oxygen can travel through the bounds of a Force Cage. So how did Arya suffocate Von Sanctus despite that? The fire consumed all the oxygen inside the cage. No? Arya had no physical way to harm Von Sanctus or prevent him from breathing. If she was outside the Force Cage, how could she have suffocated him? Right. So, okay, so how did Arya suffocate Von Sanctus? What did she do? Arya did what? Fled from, tricked, consumed. Oh wait. The fire. That's what it. Okay, right idea, wrong conclusion. The fire outside the cage consumed all the oxygen in the common room. There you go. Force Cage is specifically designed to allow oxygen through its barrier. But what if there was no oxygen left in the room? No oxygen. Ah, I see. It was the fire in the common room. The patron knew Arya couldn't harm Von Sanctus once he was in that Force Cage. So she started a fire to eat all of the oxygen within the room. Alright, so Arya Steelwind attacked Von Sanctus with a firebolt in the common room He reacted by casting force cage to protect himself. Seeing that she couldn't break through it, she started a fire to eat all the oxygen in the room. Von Sanctus was probably helpless as he suffocated from a lack of oxygen. Alright. What should have protected him ended up trapping him, and the inability to dispel it ended up sealing his fate. Oh boy. Well, I suppose that explains how the defendant murdered Von Sanctus. But with that in mind, a lot of this plan sounds like it was improvised at the moment. Just like the murder of Pierce. And not only that, we assumed that the patron used the same method to kill both Lord Von Sanctus and Lady Sybil. But I doubt Lady Sybil died under the same circumstances. Correct? There was only one fire. And if Sybil was in that force cage, the defendant wouldn't have been able to throw her body into Lake Galacrond. Which means Sybil must have died by asphyxiation elsewhere. Then it's clear our next course of action is to determine how Lady Sybil was murdered. But we still don't know where she was murdered. And the only witness who saw her around this time was the High Speaker, which was after the defendant disposed of Sybil's body. Well, the High Speaker's testimony is as good as a start as any. For our next witness, the defense would like to call High Speaker Theon Arceus to the stand. What's wrong? It's nothing. Please carry on. Kingsguard, escort High Speaker Arceus to the witness stand. Is there some kind of tension there between the Scaled Lord and Arceus? If he's the Scaled Lord, then should he know what was happening? I don't think he's omnipotent. Alright. Witness, you will testify about. Oh, great blessed Scaled Lord! There you go, there's your quote. To think you would grace us with your presence! Oh my. Ah! Forgive me, Lord Rathellian, I spoke out of turn! You must think I'm an arrogant fool! Okay, so he's just got a sycophant. Wow, it looks like the witness is schmoozing the judge for once. How many times do I have to tell you people that I'm not a god? Yes, I revere and serve the god of dragons, but I'm not Bahamut's avatar. But you're the Scaled Lord. I'm just a dragon. I'm not even a powerful one. I'm not a deity. Humility. That's exactly what Bahamut's avatar would say. I swear. He swears by the god's name. Lucio, please handle this. Perhaps another approach is warranted. High Speaker Arceus, the great and powerful Rathellion calls upon you today. We require your... You require my blood? Of course, I will gladly give my life for the Scaled Lord. What? No! Of course, my blood could never be enough. Would you just let me? I will do as you wish, my lord. It might take some time, though. I'll need some time to gather some followers. He's like, oh my gosh, just stop. Oh, we just want your testimony. Just tell us what you saw when Miss Steelwind was at the westward balcony yesterday. Oh, I see. If that's what you truly wish, my lord. Are we just going to ignore how ready he was to commit mass murder? Be quiet. We just got him to calm down. Oh my goodness. I was doing some paperwork in my quarters, and I suppose I lost track of time. My alarm went off, and I realized that it was time for my afternoon prayers. I began heading to the prayer room when I spotted Lady Steelwind looking over the westward balcony. I tried to greet her, but she didn't respond to me. That's when I noticed she was pushing something large over the balcony and into Lake Galacrond. I asked her what she was doing, but again she ignored me and went towards the prayer room. I thought nothing of it and made my way there as well. That's when the guards there turned me away. I went back to my quarters to do my prayers there. All right. Considering the timing of it all, this must have all happened minutes before she began attacking the prayer room. All right. Yes, I consider myself lucky. The skilled lord must have graced me with divine luck. Please, just stop. Considering how quickly she was moving, there has to be a reason why she waited there. Was she waiting for the high speaker to leave? Perhaps you should closely examine the timing of these events. Alright. So let's see. I was doing some paperwork in my quarters, and I suppose I lost track of time. My alarm went off, and I realized it was time for my afternoon prayers. An alarm? It's a rudimentary artificial device. I use it to remind me to conduct daily prayers. I see. And you have it set to go off at a specific time? Yes, it's set off to go off at 2:10 p.m., 5 minutes before my afternoon prayers. Okay. I began heading to the prayer room when I spotted Lady Steelwind looking over the westward balcony. What was her expression like? It was very cold and emotionless. The patron must have had control of her when this happened. Yes, that certainly makes the most sense. Right? What time did this happen? It was shortly after my alarm went off. It was definitely before 2:15 p.m. It was still before 2:15 p.m. Our encounter was short. That's when I noticed she was pushing something large over the balcony and into Lake Gallicrond. Then that must have been Sybil's body? I suppose so. You don't sound sure of yourself. It's just that I recall Lady Sybil's garb to be much brighter. Meanwhile, the thing I saw Lady Steelwind throw over the balcony was much darker. Right? You mentioned that before. It's clear it was just a trick of the sunlight. That balcony is directly above where we found Lady Sybil's body in Lake Gallicrond. You obviously saw the defendant dumping the body. What else could it have been? Yes, I suppose you're right. I asked her what she was doing, but again she ignored me and went towards the prayer room. The patron was probably trying to keep her on track, but I'm surprised she didn't attack you. Even if the patron was trying to frame her, she hadn't killed Pierce yet. Yes, I'm a little confused about that myself, but perhaps I should just be happy I came out of the encounter unharmed. Anyways, how long did you talk to her? Our encounter was very brief since she was ignoring me. It couldn't have lasted more than 2 minutes. I thought nothing of it and made my way there as well. That's when the guards there turned me away. Right, and these guards are still comatose. It makes you uneasy that you still don't have an explanation for that. Did the Empress of Discord use some kind of demonic magic to do that? The Eye of Horus doesn't leave magical traces, so it's possible that demonic magic is the same. Either way, it's awfully convenient he left right before the attack on the prayer room happened. But you suppose you'll have to put a pin in that for now. Anyways, what time did this happen? I believe it was 2:15 p.m. That's when I usually arrive at the prayer room. I went back to my quarters to do my prayers there. You were in your quarters during the massacre? Yes, as I mentioned before, my room is magically soundproof. My guards and I were woefully unaware of what was happening. We didn't know what was happening until some members of the King's Guard came to inform us what had happened to the king. So members of the King's Guard were with him, and he mentioned that his guards were there too. They can all probably verify this, but it's still a little hard to believe how close he came to harm that day. Anyways, how long were you in your quarters for? I waited there until the King's Guard notified me that it was safe. I think I was there until 3:15 p.m., which was around the time that Arya was arrested. Alright, there's a very small time frame between Sybil's death and Arya's attack on the prayer room. The details of his testimony can make a huge difference depending on when each event happened. Did you see if he remembers the exact time each part of his testimony occurred? Okay, so he was in his quarters. They went off at 2:10. He began heading to the prayer room when he spotted Lady Stillman looking over the balcony at 2:15. The encounter was short. So 5 minutes. I only spent 2 minutes trying to speak with her, but she ignored me and went towards the prayer room. The guards were there. Alright, so it's this one maybe? This happened before looking over the westward balcony. It was still before 2:15. Our encounter was short. That's when I noticed she was pushing something large over the balcony. Is there anything we can present here? Okay, so let's look at this. So his original testimony is that he was on his way to the prayer room to recite his prayers. On his way there, he spotted Arya Steelwind throwing something off of the west balcony. He wasn't able to see what she threw, but after Coraline Sybil's body was found on Lake Galacron, he assumed the object must have been Sybil's body. However, he could have sworn that he saw something darker, but he's still not sure. After witnessing this, he attempted to enter the prayer room, but was turned away by the knights guarding it. Alright, I'm curious. What was her autopsy report? Transmutation, evocation, and necromancy. Let's see. What could it be? Old creature. Alright, Steelwind Strike is evocation. But she had no wounds, right? Cause of death was suffocation. I think, let's see, what kind of spells do you have? Shape, liquid, hold creature. Let's look at shape, liquid. Magically manipulate 10 liters, form it into a complex shape. This is transmutation. Hold creature would be what? Let's see. Hold creature. Evocation. Restricts the movement. Even subtle movements, such as gestures, are impossible. Okay. So maybe that's why she was staring? Maybe she was trying to focus on the spell? Alright, let's see. That would be evocation. What would the necromancy be? Mend wounds, maybe. Let's see. This detect magic is divination. Evocation. What else does she have? Looking. She has mend wounds. Mend wounds. Okay. Wait a second. Okay. Wait a second. Okay, where is her spell compendium? Slow fall foresight. Okay, so slow fall foresight. Strike true. I'm very curious about things. Hold creature. Unable to move any part of their of their body. Even subtle movements, such as gestures required to cast certain spells, are impossible. As a result, the target will also be unable to move their mouths to speak. Okay. Evocation. Did she what is this? Caster strikes targets of their choice within 40 feet with a slashing force. Each slash has the might and power of a mage blade and can cut through thick metal armor. It's the ultimate spell of House Steelwind. Maybe And then if she mended wounds, it could have mended her wounds, but why? I don't understand. Maybe she did hold creature, but why was it dark? That's what I don't understand. What would have made it dark? Anyways, so it's sometime that must have been Sybil's body. I suppose so. You don't sound so sure of yourself. It's just that I recall Lady Sybil's guard much brighter. The thing that Lady Stillwind threw over was much darker. Okay, so we've gone over this before. I only spent about 2 minutes trying to speak with her, but she ignored me and went towards the prayer room. I don't know what we can present. That's the thing that's confusing. Let's look at Sybil's autopsy. Died at 2:18. But wait, it was still before 2:15. Our encounter was short. Okay, but according to the autopsy, she died at 2:18.
Objection!
So that's not right. Wait, what? Is something wrong? There is, but I'm not really sure what it means. Stop stammering and say what you want to say. Hi, speaker. You said you saw Arya dumping something over the ledge of the balcony. There's no need to be vague, Cuthbert. It's clear from the evidence that he saw my daughter dumping Lady Sybil's body. That's the thing, Lord Stillwind. It couldn't have been Sybil's body. What are you talking about? The location from that balcony is where we found Lady Sybil's body lines up perfectly. That may be, but the witness just said he saw Arya dumping the body before 2:15 p.m. Wait! You see it too, don't you, Lucio? How did Arya dump Coraline Sybil's body into Lake Gallicrum before 2:15 p.m. if her time of death was at 2:18 p.m.? Alright, I see. That does seem peculiar. But we know the defendant threw Sybil's body from that balcony. There would be no other explanation for how it ended up there. Yes, that's also true. Perhaps she was still alive when Arya threw her off that balcony. She could have been knocked unconscious with a sleep spell. Your Grace, there were no traces of conjuration magic on her body. And even if she was asleep, she wouldn't have survived the fall from that height. The distance from that balcony to the lake is more than 30 stories. And the autopsy report says the cause of death was suffocation, not blunt force. Right. So when did she die? She died after she hit the water. She must have died after she hit the water. But Mr. Cuthbert, Lucio just said that she would have died upon impact. But that's assuming she didn't have anything to lessen the blow. Right, so I think she was in some kind of rock box, and she suffocated in the box, maybe? She might have had the opportunity to cast a spell to protect herself. That might explain why her body isn't as damaged despite falling from such a great height.
Objection!
Okay. Again, that doesn't match with the evidence. Lady Sybil's spell compendium contains the spell Slow Fall. If she had the opportunity to cast a spell, she would have used that spell to slow her descent. And she wouldn't have taken any damage from hitting the lake if she had done that. That's a really good point. But just indulge me for a second. Which spell did Sybil cast on herself? Alright, so let's look at her compendium. So she has Foresight, Strike True, Detect Magic, Stone Skin. I think she did Stone Skin. Okay, Stone Skin. I think I see what the caster creates a thick layer of stone around their body. This stone layer will deflect and protect the caster from any physical trauma. The stone layer can be slowly broken through continuous attacks, but as long as the caster concentrates on the spell, the stone layer will instantaneously repair itself. Okay. I think that's what she did. She must have cast stone skin on herself. Stone skin. If you recall, the High Speaker mentioned that something was strange about the object Arya threw over the balcony. It was much darker and didn't match with Sybil's usual garb. Almost as if there was something else Sybil was wearing. That object was actually Lady Sybil, protected by a layer of stone. But that still doesn't explain why she would cast that instead of Slowfall. He's right. Why did Sybil cast Stone Skin? Because Arya cast, Sybil cast Stone Skin, after they were attacked, right? No, from the evidence you have, Sybil must have cast Stone Skin on herself for some reason. Before being thrown into the lake. Okay. Alright, so let's see. Before or after? Before the murders, before they were attacked, before hitting the lake? Maybe? No. Before they were attacked? No. Okay. Before the murders, before being thrown into the lake. I feel like after being thrown into the lake. No. Let's see. Before they were attacked. Let's see. Cast illusory image, was still alive. Before being thrown into the lake. That doesn't explain it though. Alright. What is it? So after, it had to have been before she got thrown off because we had that stone chip, right? Before they were attacked. That's not going to be it, right? After she was attacked? No. Before the murders? After the murders? No. Before hitting the lake? I don't think so. It's before being thrown into the lake. Oh, I thought I fixed that. I guess I didn't, but that was what I think. She cast it. I must have had after or something. I don't know. She cast Stone Skin on herself before she was thrown into the lake. I swear I thought I clicked that. Arya must have attacked her, and she cast that spell in response. That would protect her from Steelwind's strike. But that doesn't seem quite right. What do you mean? I may not have seen much, but I saw that the object Arya dumped was stiff and motionless. If it had been Lady Sybil, she would have been struggling against her, wouldn't she? Except for Hold Creature. That's a good point too. The High Speaker saw Arya dumping a motionless Sybil. But if we assume my logic is correct, she would also have still been alive. Why was Sybil motionless despite being unconscious? So why wasn't she struggling against Arya? So Sybil was affected by a spell. She must have been affected by a spell, and considering I kept her from resisting Arya, the patron must have made Arya cast a spell on her. It was Hold Creature. Alright, so where is that one? Hold Creature. So I think this makes sense. So we have Evocation, Transmutation, and Evocation. Evocation, Transmutation. There's one more in school though. Transmutation, Evocation, and Necromancy. Okay. Hold Creature. The caster completely restricts the movement of the target. So basically, the gesture is create an X with both arms. So she had the X, and she couldn't move her arms off. Alright, It was Hold Creature. Sybil must have cast Stone Skin on herself when Arya attacked her. The patron must have known that Arya couldn't physically damage her like that, so they ordered her to restrain Sybil with that spell. And Sybil died by suffocation? That's right, Lucio. She drowned, right? Even if she was restrained, Sybil was still protected by Stone Skin. That would have left only one option for the patron. Sybil drowned in Lake Gallipoth. Sybil suffocated when Arya threw her into Lake Gallipoth. Her stone skin lessened the impact of the fall, but it also made her drop like a literal rock. Arya's Hold Creature spell prevented her from moving or releasing her spell. She was helpless as she sank to the bottom of the lake. Oh man. I believe that covers all 3 of the murders then. Yes. Lord Von Sanctus suffocated to death in his own force cage. Lady Sybil drowned after Arya cast Hold Creature spell on her, and Lord Pierce died after being wounded by a blade created with shaped liquid. The only common thread I see is that the patron used some of the victim's magic against them. And how does that connect to Pierce? Did he cast shaped liquid to make a blade to defend himself? Maybe the murderer took it from him and used it against him. No. But he was knocked unconscious alongside you. He couldn't have been the one to create that blade. Anyways, whoever did this had an in-depth knowledge of each of the spells they used to defend themselves. They knew Von Sanctus couldn't dispel his own force cage, and they also knew that he still needed oxygen from within it. And in Sybil's case, they knew Arya couldn't physically harm her when she had Stone Skin active. They also knew the Hold Creature would prevent Sybil from dispelling her own Stone Skin. Not only that, they did all of this in a quick time frame. Von Sanctus and Sybil died within 13 minutes of each other. And if Arya hadn't encountered Celeste, Pierce might have died just as quickly. So whoever did this had an in-depth knowledge of high-level magic. Not only that, they came up with creative ways to bypass the defenses put up by Von Sanctus and Sybil. Yes, they had the ability to react quickly and decisively. But considering the circumstances, that hardly narrows it down. Several members of the 4 Pillar families were present that day. Each and every one of them studied at the Imperial Academy. They would all be knowledgeable in magic and its applications. Something they're saying isn't sitting right by you for some reason. There's something there. So why can't you see it? Ugh, it's no use. You just can't piece it together yet. But you're not finished yet. There's another angle to this. Considering who the patron did and didn't target. What's similar about some of the targets? The victims were Lloyd Von Sanctus, Coraline Sybil, and Garrick Pierce. What's a similarity that we can draw between at least 2 of them? Well, they were pillar houses, right? Von Sanctus and Sybil are house leaders of pillar families. Von Sanctus and Sybil are the heads of their respective noble houses. Are you saying that the patron's goal was to assassinate leaders of the 4 pillars? That's the motive that makes the most sense. But that does leave one question. Don't be coy, I'm not daft, Cuthbert. Actually, I highly doubt it was you. Really now. Out of most of the people there, you could have easily tricked your daughter into signing a blood contract. But why would you need to do that? You're the Grand General of Wyvern military, and the cathedral was filled with your men. You could have easily equipped one of your best mages to carry out this massacre, and you wouldn't even need to make a deal with the demon to do so. So why wasn't Lucio targeted then? From her encounter with Celeste, it's clear there's a limit to Arya's combat capabilities. The patron might have simply doubted Arya's ability to defeat the Grand General. But there's also another explanation. Lucio, the patron, wanted to frame House Steelwind using Arya? No. Made no attempt to kill Lucio Steelwind. And when they were controlling Arya, they didn't make any attempt to hide her actions. They wanted people to see her. Well, how does that not make sense? Okay. wanted to frame Arya for the murders. Okay. Wanted to... Oh, I don't see why it's not wanted to frame. To make them suffer for the murders. House Steelwind for the murders. Okay. Literally the same concept that I was just saying, just slightly different wording. Okay. It's fine. It's fine. We got it. The patron wanted people to suspect House Steelwind for the murders. They used Lucio Steelwind's daughter to commit the crime. Then they intentionally left him alive to cast suspicion on him. That's why they used my daughter. Is that a tinge of anger you feel from him? Anyways, that leads me to my next point. Imagine if we never discovered Arya's blood contract with the Empress of Discord. What would have happened? We'd still be thinking that Miss Steelwind succumbed to Mageblight. She would have been convicted for the murders, and trust in House Steelwind would be forever diminished. About a month ago, House Freyga lost its head, and his successor, Leif Freyga, was woefully unprepared to take his place. Now the heads of House Von Sanctus and House Sybil are dead, with the House Steelwind being held responsible for it all. All 4 Pillar families would have been weakened as a result of the massacre. But I think there's another layer to this. Everything fits together if we assume that the patron's goal was to weaken the Pillar families. Except for the murder of Garrick Pierce. Yes, in contrast to Sybil and Von Sanctus, Pierce's political power pales in comparison. Furthermore, Pierce was already scheduled to be executed next month for the murder of Flintheart McCoy. Why did the patron target Garrick Pierce? Why would the patron go to the trouble of murdering a condemned man? Pierce knew the identity of the patron, right? Of Celeste's parents. The patron murdered Pierce because they needed him to die as quickly as possible. Pierce knew the identity of Celeste's biological parents. My parents? Do you remember what Pierce said when we showed up for the meeting? Ah, you finally arrived. I suppose this means you've finally decided. Wait, you two? We got your letter. Letter? What letter? You sent us a letter, Pierce. It said that you knew who Celeste's parents were. I did send a letter, but not to you two. We weren't the intended recipients of that letter. That's right. So that leaves one last question. Who did Pierce originally send that letter to? The patron? There's only one person Pierce could have sent that letter to. The person who orchestrated the massacre in the first place. The patron. But that means the patron is someone who would be threatened by Celeste's parentage. Oh boy, bomb drop here. Order! Order in the court! But I don't understand. I'm sorry, I know this is a lot to take in, but I think they were targeting you for some reason. Pierce knew the identity of Celeste's parents and attempted to blackmail the patron with this. Instead of complying with Pierce's demands, the patron instead sent the letter to me. But why go to the trouble of luring you there? They could have just allowed Pierce to wait in the prayer room while the defendant made her way to murder you. Looking back on it, it's possible they wanted to kill Celeste too. What? They knew I wouldn't meet Pierce alone, and the information he had was about her. The patron correctly guessed that I'd bring her with me. By killing both Pierce and Celeste, they'd eliminate any threat Celeste would pose to them. But who would be threatened by such information? The mere existence of McCoy posed a threat to them. It must have something to do with her birthright. Right. So who would that leave? The royal family? Because I take her he's done, and that has nothing to do with it. A royal family, right? King de Rivengard just recently died. What if Celeste was a member of the royal family? You think I'm a princess? I don't want to suspect Aster, but we need to consider every possibility. And when it comes to conflicts of inheritance, a royal line of succession is the first thing that comes to mind. Not only that, the king would have the authority to pardon Pierce for his crimes. That wouldn't entirely make sense. What do you mean? If McCoy was abandoned at a tavern in Cornhaven, we must assume she's a bastard child. Okay, I don't know why you have to bring that up. My point is that King Olivier wouldn't abandon a child of pure royal blood. The kingdom requires heirs to continue the royal bloodline. He would have leveraged her in a diplomatic marriage. That's disgusting. That's diplomacy, Cuthbert. Anyways, even if McCoy was of royal blood, Aster is the king's eldest child. And he's of pure royal blood. McCoy would have had no claim on the throne under these circumstances. Right, I see what you mean. I suppose that eliminates Aster for now. Anyways, we should consider the other suspects first. So who would that leave? There's House Frege. I recall that during Beatrice Frege's trial, we heard William Frege's last will and testament. It mentioned that House Frege's assets would be divided evenly between all of his children. If McCoy were to be revealed as a Frege, his daughters would be legally obligated to share the estate with her. Can I seriously be a Frege? I don't want to suspect Leaf or Miriam, but we need to consider every possibility. And as we've seen, the Freges are no strangers to making deals with demons. But it still doesn't quite fit. I doubt Leif or Miriam would do something like this. What are you basing that on? I tend to be a good judge of character, and they just don't seem like the type to do something like this. Bah, you're far too trusting. I had no doubt that any of William's children would be capable of something like this. I suppose we'll have to see. Anyways, we should consider the other suspects first. So, who would that leave? There's still House Stillman. As much as I have my doubts, House Stillman is the only Pillar family whose house leader survived the past month. Do you think I'm McCoy's biological father? Ugh, you're barely a father to your actual daughter. I'm only stating the possibility for the sake of argument. As I've said, it wouldn't make sense for you to frame your own daughter, and House Stillman would be blamed. But we need to consider every possibility. Anyways, we should consider the other suspects first. So who would that leave? What if the Eye Taker orchestrated this whole thing? The Eye Taker? That common criminal? What reason would he have to do this? I've heard firsthand that he was planning to expand his influence throughout Wyverngard. He was actually plotting with Beatrice to use House Frege to do so. Since I ruined his original plans, setting up that massacre might have been his backup plan. Perhaps we're looking at this all wrong. What if Celeste was a part of the royal family, and they were planning to use her to take the throne? But if he wanted to do so, why would he put McCoy in danger by having my daughter attack her? Not only that, he also had the perfect opportunity to murder His Majesty. Imagine if he had placed a more lethal contingent spell in that glyph of contingency. His Majesty might have very well died alongside Van Sanctus, Sybil, and Pierce. Yeah, I suppose you're right, but we need to consider every possibility. Ugh, I can't think of anyone else. Yes, there's a flaw with each suspect. Your logic is clearly flawed. Well, I don't see him coming up with any ideas. There's something here I'm not seeing, but I know I'm close. There's a missing piece that ties this all together. Regardless, we still have no idea who this Empress of Discord is. I am loath to allow such an individual to walk freely through Wyverngard. Your Grace, you've been alive since the creation of Wyverngard and magic. Do you know who this demon is? I can't say I do. Demons tend to take on many titles over their lifetimes. But whoever this Empress is, they are brave to so blatantly encroach on my domain like this. Well, I suppose we'll just have to cross that bridge when we get there. We've obtained a lot of information today, but we clearly have many questions that need to be answered. How should we proceed? Ugh. What is it, Mr. Cuthbert? I can't help but feel there's something here I'm not seeing. I just can't put my finger on it. We have been working at this for quite a while. Perhaps we should suspend proceedings so that we can look into these new leads. I have no objections. It would give my men some time to look into what we've discovered today. Then it's settled. We'll be postponing proceedings for now, but you'll all be expected to return here by tomorrow morning. You are all free to return to your homes for the time being. But make no mistake, the King's Guard will be keeping careful watch over all of you. Boy. Well, there's still this constant nagging sensation in the back of your mind. Hey, Tyrion? It's as if you've forgotten something extremely important. Tyrion! What is it? What could be so important? It's so difficult to remember. It's like staring right at you. Tyrion! Sorry. I was just thinking about everything. You're looking really stressed out. Do you want to head back to your house to rest? No, we only have a day until the trial resumes. If we can't figure out what happened after tomorrow, the magical traces will dissipate. But you already know what happened. You just don't know who did it. Yeah, but we should speak with the suspects again. Maybe if I get lucky, I'll see something through the eye of Horus. But one of the suspects is the Eye Taker. What are you going to do about him? I suppose I'll have to speak with him too. What? No. What if he tries to kill you again? Arya's life is on the line. That's just a risk I'll have to take. Tyrion, do you even understand what you've been pulled into? What? Someone just murdered a bunch of nobles, and they even attacked members of the royal family. Now there are ancient dragons and demon lords involved too. Isn't this above your pay grade? Ouch. You know that's not what I meant. It's just this whole thing is crazy, isn't it? It's fine. It's just like any of our other of our investigations. It's not, though. What if the Empress of Discord attacks you? What if the patron decides you're getting too close to the truth? Well, what if I can't... Her voice begins to break. Celeste? Are you still worried about what happened during the massacre? I'm fine. I already told you you didn't do anything wrong. You almost died, Tyrion. I know. Tyrion, you almost died. I know, Celeste. No, Tyrion, I don't think you do. Do you have any idea how worried I was when she broke past me? When I saw you all lying on the floor, so many things were going through my mind. I don't know what I would have done if you were... She can't even complete that sentence. Celeste, You were so focused on everything else that you've been ignoring her. She was attacked by Arya and almost died. You never even thought about how traumatic that must have been for her. I'm sorry. I didn't think. Don't apologize. Just please, just leave this to Lucio and the Scaled Lord. You've done enough already. They can figure the rest of it out. What if it's not enough? I'm not so arrogant that I think they can't do it without me. But what if they can't figure out who the patron is? Arya will spend the rest of her life in prison. What if I could have done something to prevent that? I don't care if that happens. Celeste! I don't care, Tyrion. I'll apologize to her all you want after this. But all I want is to keep you safe. And I don't know if I'm able to do that anymore. Even she seemed surprised by what she said. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I'm really happy you're a part of my life. What? I know what you're saying is coming from a place of care. And I'm really sorry about how much I've been worrying about you lately, but you're not going to stop, are you? It's like I've always said. Man, king, or god, nothing will stop you from getting justice for your clients. I'm going to talk to Lucio. What? If we're going to meet the eye taker again, we're bringing some knights with us. Celeste, that's hardly. Nope, you don't get a say in this. And if you're not here when I get back, I will find you. Judging from her expression, it's not an empty threat. Fine, just go. She might have a point, though. Before everything happened, you weren't even sure if you wanted to continue being an attorney. Maybe you should consider a safer, quieter life after this is all done. Perhaps a life with her. Wait, what? All right, Lucio's cleared it. It was surprisingly easy to convince him. Are you okay? I'm fine. Let's not waste any more time. Before she has a chance to respond, you hastily walk past her. Hey, don't walk so far ahead. You need to stay focused on the trial for Arya's sake. But when this is all over, you'll... Well, you suppose you don't have to think about that until then. All right. So let's go ahead and pop a save here. Well, that is where we are going to stop for today, guys. We will start up next time with reinvestigating based on what we learned from the trial. So I hope that you enjoyed this one. It was pretty exciting, pretty intense. We found a dragon. Oh my goodness, it was amazing. But if you like this kind of content, please make sure to like, subscribe, follow, share, all that good stuff. If you want to watch live, we're on Twitch at twitch.tv/thehour27. I have my schedule posted in the About section, and if you want to see which games I'm playing each day, I post them on twitter.com/thehour27. And until the next one, guys, I'll see you later. Bye.